In the Quran, there is a glorious passage which references a God who does not change the condition of people until they change what is inside themselves. Irshad Manji is a Muslim who embraces her faith and the Quran and defies dogma. She directs the Moral Courage Project at New York University. She writes newspaper columns and thought-provoking books filled with many wake-up moments. Her newest is Allah, Liberty, and Love, the courage to reconcile faith and freedom. It is my pleasure to welcome Irshad Manji back to Studio 4 to tell us more.
And it is back to Studio 4 because I've been here on a few occasions with you and enjoyed every conversation.
Well, when we had our first one, your label was the Muslim refusenik.
Yes, but that did not refer to me refusing to be a Muslim. Refusenik is just somebody who refuses to join an army of automatons or robots in the name of God. I've always been a very deep believer in God. I just don't believe in conformity.
I know that. I know you were kicked out of school.
Well, the madrasa, the Islamic religious school. Public school did very, very well there.
But at the madrasa, you stirred things up.
Only by asking simple questions.
Which is the whole point of it all, is it not? Asking questions.
Yes,
one of the points.
One of the big points of life actually is to ask questions, because the fact is that, you know, none of us is God. We do not have the full and final truth of everything, or anything for that matter. Therefore, you know, we have to embrace the fact that we have limited knowledge, which in turn means that we've got to create societies like Canada, where we can disagree with one another in peace and with civility. And the beauty, therefore, of believing in one God who has the full truth, and that would be me as a Muslim believing in one God who has the full truth, the beauty of that belief is it obliges me to defend human liberty. So you see, Allah and liberty are very reconcilable.
And many before you have done that, the Martin Luther Kings, the Gandhis, and a Muslim reformer, really, in his day, Khan.
Yeah.
Abdul.
Yeah, by the way,
Goffer.
Last name is spelled K-H-A-N, so I don't want anyone thinking Khan, like as in con artist. No.
No, okay, K-H-A-N, got it.
Goffer Khan was
Khan.
his name, and he was, in effect, Islam's Gandhi. He actually lived at the same time as Gandhi. He came from the northwest frontier province of Pakistan, the area of the world that is now overrun by the Taliban. But this guy showed that it could be so different, because he used the Quran, Islam scripture, to promote thorough equality between women and men, to promote, if you can believe it, Muslim-Hindu unity. And it was on that basis that, frankly, he was completely ostracized by the Pakistani government. His story is no longer told in Pakistan or outside of it. I tell his story in Allah, Liberty, and Love, and moreover, Fanny, I ask all of my readers, Muslim and non-Muslim, to go to their local schools, one teacher they know, one city councilor they know, and lobby to have Ghaffar Khan's story told in the social studies curriculum. Imagine, that would give young Muslims something wonderful to aspire to, and it would give non-Muslims the understanding that, frankly, Islam is capable of better than what we see in our news headlines.
But as you know, reform-minded Muslims are not leaping out of closets.
Not yet.
To proclaim themselves free thinkers. Not yet.
Well, with one huge exception, and that huge exception truly is huge, and you know where I'm going with this, the Arab Spring. Right, the uprisings in North Africa and the Middle East. You know, the last time you and I spoke a few years ago, I could not have said to you, just look at what's going on in the Middle East right now, and you'll see the freedom for hunger, the hunger for freedom, the thirst for freedom that I've been talking about all along. Today, I can tell you that because you're seeing it with your own eyes. So the beauty of my journey, at least, is that I've come to realize, a reformist Muslim like myself, I'm not alone. Not
alone anymore. Well, you were never completely alone, but you were causing a bit of a disturbance in the community, as you know.
Some argue I still am, but look, you know, it's a new generation of Muslims who has reached out to say, love what you're saying. We know we need positive change in how we practice our faith. Now, Irshad, show me how to go about it. How do I speak my truth to my parents when I'll be accused of dishonoring my family? So the hows of reform are as important
Very
as the
much
why.
so. And as you know, Robert F. Kennedy talked about speaking truth to power.
Yes.
Truth to power. If you have the guts.
That was, well, you have to have the guts if you're going to have any kind of, integrity, saying that I want to live in a world that should be better for my children. You talk about Robert F. Kennedy. He's the one who coined this wonderful phrase, moral courage, which is in essence the willingness to speak up when everyone else wants to shut you up. And that is what I teach at New York University. That, in fact, is what this new book, Allah, Liberty, and Love, is all about.
So moral courage starts with love, with what?
Moral courage starts with the recognition that we are all members of communities, and we define what those communities are. But it's not enough for leaders in our communities to point fingers at the outside world and say, all of you out there are responsible for all of my community's ills. No, we have to cop to our crap too within our communities and say, look, I see this abuse of power happening. I am going to speak up about it. And I know that in doing so, I will take backlash. And Fanny, you and I both know there is no more painful backlash in the world than one from your own people. But this is why Kennedy pointed out that moral courage is more rare and more valuable than bravery in battle or even great intelligence. He called it the one essential, vital quality needed to change the world.
So when you have culture that is posing as sacred religion, if I can say that.
I think you can say that.
When a culture poses as religion, how do you replace dogma with faith?
Well, first of all, you have to make the distinction between faith and dogma. See, people talk about sort of religion blithely. You're religious, I'm not religious, or vice versa. But wait a minute. I'm a faithful Muslim, not a dogmatic one. And here's what I mean by that. Faith is secure enough to handle questions. Faith never needs to be threatened by questions. Dogma, on the other hand, is always threatened by questions because dogma, by definition, is rigid and brittle, and it snaps under the spotlight of scrutiny. So you can legitimately call yourself a faithful Christian, faithful Muslim, for that matter, even faithful atheist, in the sense that you believe, but you also recognize the power of asking questions. As Socrates pointed out, the unexamined life is not worth living. I would tweak that in our context to say the unexamined faith is not worth having.
Well, not worth living. But when you have a cup of chai, tell me about this chai ceremony, in a sense, the importance of having a cup of tea with a Muslim reformist.
Listen, none of this is religious, okay? Like, just put religion aside for just a second. I've known over the years that I've been talking about big ideas like moral courage, that a lot of people get intimidated and say, well, I don't even know who I can talk to about this stuff. Well, Allah, Liberty, and Love has been written for everybody who's interested in living life more honestly. Muslim, non-Muslim, religious, not religious, it doesn't matter. But my point is that people need support in their journey to develop courage. And so I have published my famous chai tea recipe. At the end of this book, it's a simple recipe. I made it just before we came on set. Here you are drinking my chai tea. I'm now going to pour some cream because, I'm kind of decadent that way, right?
Of course you are.
I'm not interested just in milk. I poured 10% cream in there.
And mine too, I guess.
Well, and yours too. Now, you don't take much sugar in yours, and that's perfectly fine. But, not that I'm sweet enough, as they say, but I take a lot of sugar. And you can make this chai tea and experiment with different dollops of, cream or milk or sugar as you see fit. But the point is that it's a great way to bring your friends together, over a pot of chai tea, and actually discuss some of these ideas in ways that lower defenses and lift our hearts.
Sure, and get over the fear of the other. But if you are part of a culture, or you're blaming it on culture, when you stone women to death, murder by rocks, when you have to wear a burqa or a niqab or a veil, you don't have to. But when you're in that culture, and women are considered really vessels of shame, and certainly not all, where do you start?
Where you start, it depends on whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim. But I think that the starting point for everybody is to ask questions, and here's the key, out loud, because we've all got questions, right? And most of us actually keep them inside of us because, you know, we don't want to offend, or we fear being accused of being called racist or bigots or Islamophobes. The beauty of getting together with friends is that you really are with friends as you're sipping chai tea and your defenses come down. You can say to each other, okay. So Irshad in this book is talking about, you know, the need to ask questions about what happens in other people's cultures and not just our own. What questions do we have? Let's talk safely in this environment. And as you do that, you begin to develop the backbone to then ask a Muslim, for example, the questions that you've got. And the reason the word love is in the title of this book, Allah, Liberty and Love, is that I find, Fanny, that so many non-Muslims refuse to ask Muslims questions because they think that they're respecting us by not asking uncomfortable questions. In fact, I'm saying that you are treating me as an equal when you ask me questions. You're saying I have faith in your capacity to think.
Right.
I love you enough to treat you as a peer.
And there's something I really don't understand. Now, someone who
That's
does
right.
that, and
Yeah.
you have been with him on television twice, Bill Maher. When we come back, we'll talk about that adventure on TV with himself. Oh my. Irshad Manji, our guest, her new book, Allah, Liberty and Love, and as she said, not written just for someone who is Muslim, written for all of us.